Let's talk about how I went from this in 2018 to this in July of 2025. And no, I'll give you the spoiler, it wasn't by doing more cardio. Like some of you listening, I used to be a runner. I did half marathon distances and I was obsessed. Unfortunately, that obsession turned like problematic obsession and I had a full-blown eating disorder. This was when I ran the half marathon in Paris. I was seriously suffering, purging and miserable, afraid of food. It was awful. A few years later, I did get professional treatment, so yay. Once I had treatment for an ED, then it was like, what's next? I was still running and taking care of myself. I was learning how to feed myself again, basically. Things weren't really coming together very well, and there wasn't really much of a plan. And then I got injured running, and I was told I couldn't run for 6 weeks. And so I was like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna handle this? And that's when I started lifting weights. So I started lifting weights. I fell in love with getting stronger because I was like, oh my God, this is the body that I've been waiting for. I was still super thin, but I was finally starting to see muscle definition and tone, which is what I thought running would have given me all along, but it never did. And the algorithm decided to put me on the side of Instagram where everyone was like a bodybuilder or a powerlifter now. And so then I started training with a bodybuilding coach of my own. She taught me how to lift. She taught me how to track macros. She taught me how to program workouts. She taught me that aesthetics are totally fine as long as you are resting and recovering, but she didn't really pay any attention to nutrition or food quality. So that's kind of where I was like, this is a massive missing piece, and everything was kind of just making my digestive symptoms worse. So that's when I started to learn more about nutrition, and that's also when I started to compete in powerlifting, not bodybuilding. Lifting weights was what I had always thought that running would do for me. So now anytime I talk to a potential client or connect with you on Instagram, like when I'm telling you don't run like crazy, like this is where it's coming from. It's not like me being judgmental or annoying. It's like I thought that running would do what weights would, and it never did. So like take my advice and like learn from me. I still at this point was going for like one run a week, and that worked really well for me, and I started to sprint like a few years later, but running 7 miles every other day was no longer part of my training. What a lot of women get confused by is like they think lifting weights is going to make them bulky, and like as you can see here, I was still really thin. Now, I don't mean this as a bad thing because like honestly I was eating way more and I was learning how to fuel, but like lifting weights inherently does not make bulk. Eating in a calorie surplus does, and doing that consistently. But if you're naturally on the thinner side and you're petite like me, like simply lifting weights is actually going to do something more like this than what I look like now, because this was only a few years in and now I'm like 7 years in. I really just fell in love with lifting heavy, and competing in powerlifting was like this perfect balance between like not getting bodybuilder skinny but still competing and having that kind of goal to work toward. So fast forward to now where I really just train for me and for the aesthetics that I'm going for, but also what my body needs. I didn't go from this to this in a few months. If you tell me that you're afraid to lift heavy because you think you're gonna get bulky, or because you think I'm bulky now, like this is like 7 years of dedication. So good news is if you're not that dedicated, it's not going to happen. But also my diet is impeccable, and I haven't really met many people who are as disciplined with their nutrition as I am. So that should be a good thing. Simply lifting weights will not change your body like this unless you do it consistently for like 7+ years and you're eating appropriately. If you don't understand why you don't look as strong as you feel, or why your training is still leaving you soft, it's probably because you're overdoing cardio, you're either outsourcing too much of your workouts to classes, or quite simply you're not eating enough. And for some of you, it will be all of the above. If you want some advice on what to do next, message me, apply, and let's talk about my one-on-one program so we can get you closer to where you deserve to be.